Don't freak
Yeah.
out like over like these tiny breakouts right now.
If it were that easy,
Insane,
it's
insane.
the only option are these medications.
At this point, I'd rather have acne for the rest of my life than go on
So I
Accutane.
felt.
It's time to get loud. Welcome back to Loud Talk with Lavi, a podcast where we break down the walls of beauty standards one flaw at a time. And today I have a very special guest. Please give a warm welcome to Meg Gage. Thank you so much for joining me, Meg. She is at Get Glow Method on Instagram and socials, and she's here to talk to us about nutrition, acne, hormonal acne, and we have so much great topics to dive into today. So first off, let's just get to knowing Meg. So, Meg, could you give us like a little bit of an intro about yourself, please?
Yeah, of course. So I struggled with acne my entire life and was put on the hormonal birth control when I was 12 because back in the
Wow.
day, that's just the only option you had.
Yep.
I'd only had a few natural cycles of my own. I was 12. I maybe had 3 of my own natural cycles, and then I stayed on it for 10 years. And my real issues arose when I came off the pill cold turkey when I was 22 after being on it 10 years. And when I say my acne exploded, it was next level. My entire face, I had my entire back, my body, my butt, like I'd never experienced anything like it. And then I was having crazy health symptoms from it as well. And I then went on this massive quest to heal my skin over the next 5 years, and nothing worked. When I tried it all. I did the natural route. I went back to derms who pushed pills back on me, which I wasn't comfortable with.
Yep.
I saw nutritionists, naturopaths, Chinese medicine practitioners. I was doing skincare up the yin yang, facials, peels, lasers. Like it was insane. And I just was so frustrated with the lack of knowledge when it came to acne from all these different practitioners. And it just seemed like this, who were like, it's skincare. Don't worry about it. Like you use this and you'll be good. Or people who were like, no, it's definitely hormonal. You came off the pill, but like put coconut oil on your face, be natural. And then I was so severely depressed because of my skin. So psychologically, there was this massive impact. And I just didn't feel that there was any bridge between the 3 of them. And they were all hugely impacting my acne and experience. So I was really fed up. I had spent so much money. So I became a holistic nutritionist, learned slowly about how much was kind of going on in my own body, how much applied to having acne.
Mm-hmm.
And then I created the Get Glow method out of that. So it was really this full circle moment because my programs were created out of this like gap in acne work that I then wanted to fill from being able to successfully heal myself with that method, with the actual proper education and knowledge and understanding of what it's actually like to have acne, which I think is a huge missing piece in other practitioners. If you don't get it, you don't get it.
Yes, absolutely. And just like a quick note on that too, like I've seen dermatologists and estheticians who've never dealt with acne in their life, and I just feel like
It's not the same.
no, I need someone who like does struggle with acne. And I get comments all the time too, like, why would I take skincare advice from you if you struggle with acne? And then people who do, really enjoy my videos and get like value out of my videos, they comment back and they're like, actually, I would never listen to anyone who hasn't struggled with acne because I've gone through it. So there is that misconception there, and that gap, as you mentioned. I do want to dive in. So wow, you were on birth control for 10 years from the age of 12, which is insane, insane. I went on it at 18 and I was only on it for 2 years, and I already felt those like major effects in just 2 years. So I can't even imagine over 10 years where your body's already naturally changing so much, adding that on top.
It was, and the problem is because I was on it so young, all I knew was birth control.
Right.
All I knew was those feelings of your whole brain's developing and you've got this drug that you're constantly on. Your synthetic hormones, you're not actually letting your hormones cycle themselves. So when I got off it, the difference I felt immediately was enough to be like, I'll never go on this again.
Right.
Like, holy crap. It just was such a massive difference, even in my mood, which I think was a scary part. So, I mean, obviously, while I had to deal with the cystic acne as a repercussion of coming off of it, it taught me so much about my body and my natural body and how to connect with that again. And I think I had no connection. I had no idea what that felt like. I wasn't having real periods. I was just skipping periods because the doctor was like, go for it. So I was young. I'm like, I don't want my period. I'm just going to taking the pill. I'm not going to keep taking those sugar pills. Why would I want to bleed? Like, lo and behold, I like the hormonal issues that I had from that, even with all the work that I did, like it probably took a decade.
Right.
Like,
No,
fix.
that totally makes sense. And can I ask, like, what kind of triggered you to get off the pill at 22 in the first place?
I can only describe it as an intuition of my body being like, get off this damn thing.
Hmm.
And I think like that happens more often we think, having worked with so many clients that have been on drugs. It's just this whisper, it's
Yeah.
this innate knowing. And I think so much of the time symptoms start cropping up because your body's kind of lightly knocking at the door, being like, I'd like to get off this roller coaster. And when you don't listen, it gets louder. So
Yeah.
I knew. Obviously, at that point, I mean, that was like 12 years ago. There was no Instagram, there was no information. Like, that wasn't a thing of like, there's a right and wrong way to come off the pill. There's,
Right.
natural hormones. Like, I didn't even know anything about my own cycle. Like, it wasn't until I got to nutrition school where I actually learned what that even meant.
Right. No, definitely. And I had that exact same feeling. Like I was on it for 2 years and I was like, oh, this is great. Like I can, like I still like got my period like with the sugar pills, but sometimes like I'd go on a vacation. I'm like, hey, I can
Yeah,
just skip my period like so easy, right? And I just thought
exactly.
like, like everyone's on it, like there's nothing wrong with it. But I had the same feeling of just like randomly, it was almost like, okay, I just need to get off this. And like I just didn't feel like myself, but I couldn't like exactly pinpoint it. But I'm like, I have a feeling that it's
Yeah.
this
It's
pill.
intuition.
And it's crazy how much like our stories align. Like even though like you were on it for a lot longer, like the second I got off of it, like I've struggled with acne my whole life, but like you even mentioned with your own story, my skin exploded. Like never had that much cystic acne in my life. Like, and it was exactly like it started really coming up 6 months after I got off the pill, which it was like
Always.
clockwork.
Always.
And
Yep.
then at like the 8 month mark, it was like there was no space on my face that wasn't covered in cystic acne. And I just remember feeling like so like low and defeated because it's like I didn't really exactly know that it was the pill causing this at first, but then when I was looking at like the timelines and it lining up, I was like, it most definitely has to be this. And what was even more disappointing was when I went to the doctor and talked about these things, and when I went to a dermatologist and talked about these things, they were like, no, it has no correlation with the birth control. Like they were like,
What?
you have to get on Accutane, like that's the only thing that will help. And I'm
That's
like,
shocking.
and they were like, my literal doctor was like, the only way you'd be experiencing like hormone issues was if like you're in your 40s, like you're too young to be experiencing that. And in my head, like I'm sitting there with like tears in my eyes because it's like,
Oh,
like you're told like almost like something's wrong with you, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, what didn't make sense to me, and after I like came home and cleared my head, I was like, well, I was put on birth control to help with my acne, so like, how could you say that like it has nothing to do with it afterwards, right?
When you come off of it, like
Yeah.
at least the ones I saw, they were like, well, you just have to get back on it for the rest of your life. And I was like, excuse me, get
Well, that
lost.
was the other solution. He was like, you can just get back on birth control. You can be on Accutane. I'm
No,
like, I don't want to go on Accutane. He's like,
no.
well, you have to like, handle the side effects if you want like clear skin. And I'm like, honestly, at this point, I'd rather have acne for the rest of my life than go on
How I
Accutane
felt.
and go
That's how
back
I
on birth control. Because I told him like I did not feel good on birth control. I did not feel like
no.
myself. He's like, so like, did you feel like depressed? I'm like, yeah, you could probably say
Yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah.
there was something wrong, and that it was just so frustrating. And obviously like that was just one experience, like I'm sure like there's many other experiences, but I think the overall picture is that like in most of these scenarios, not all, but in a lot of these scenarios, it's just that pressure of like, well, just got to get back on the pill, just, and it's so like normalized to just like
Oh, yeah.
be pumping these hormones into your body every day, and then we wonder why like we all have hormonal imbalances like at the other end of it.
And it's just a lack of education. Like,
Right.
that's what drives me nuts is, first of all, why wasn't my mother made aware at 12 what the birth control was going to do to her 12-year-old daughter? That wasn't given, right? She didn't
Right.
know. And also, she was like my legal guardian. Like, I wasn't 18. I didn't know
Yeah.
how to make those decisions. And second of all, like, situations like that where you are dismissed and kind of like gaslighted at the end of the day have been my experiences
Yep.
from those appointments that I had with derms and doctors after the fact. And to be told, and first of all, telling someone who's clearly crushed, like I was bawling in these offices,
Yeah.
I was really, really upset. I had never experienced such crazy acne. And then just to be dismissed and be like, well, here's the only solution. Good luck then. Like, if you don't want to do this, deal with it on your own. Like, and then you're leaving these appointments with this like
I know.
prescription because you feel forced. Meanwhile, like you put me, this is your fault. You put me
Yeah.
on this, educating me in the first place. What?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I even like mentioned, I was like, can we do like, I don't even know. Like, I'm like, can we do like an allergy? Because I didn't know like what the reason was
Yeah.
at the time. So I'm like, can we do like an
Yeah.
allergy test? Because I had just like moved too. So I'm like, maybe like, and your body like develops allergies like over
Of
years too. So I'm like, can
course.
we do an allergy test? Can we do like a
You wanted
hormone
to dig
test? Can we
deeper.
do a blood test? Maybe I'm like deficient in something. They were like,
Yeah.
no, like this has nothing to do with it. So then I did kind of have to go on my own. And
Yeah.
one of the first things that I started doing was I got really into like taking nettle
Yeah.
supplements on like a daily basis, drinking nettle tea. And that helped me so much initially. And when I showed like, I think I showed a dermatologist like just a few images of like the reduction in inflammation just within like 2 months of taking nettle every day. He was like, I don't know, like if this is like actually, and I'm like, you can see like
I'm
clearly how it's a,
girl.
you know,
Preaching to the choir because
yeah,
my clients who still see derms will go in and they'll be like, oh my God, your skin is clear. What did you do? And they'll be like, oh, I worked with Meg. Like I did this all natural.
yeah,
It's all, and they're like, no, like they still, like the proof is there and they still don't
hmm
want to acknowledge it, which I just wish we could not, again, it's back to that either or approach.
yes,
Ultimately, what I want for anyone struggling with acne is to do what's best for them. And
hmm
sometimes from a mental health perspective, medication is necessary.
yep,
And it might be so bad and so infected that like maybe you do have to go on Accutane,
yep,
and that's just going to get you out of that depressive spiral. I'm not anti anything. I'm pro education and understanding that
yep,
there's a different solution for you always, and to never feel like you're being gaslit or just like alone in this journey and thinking that the only option are these medications, right? Like we want
absolutely.
to just make sure that you do know, yeah, it's not going to be the easier route. Natural healings doesn't, it takes a way longer time. It's
hmm
not just like taking one pill. It's really truly a holistic process. But if that's aligned with what you want, then it's like well worth understanding that there are these other options that, oh my God, they work and they work long term, right? That's the other
Definitely.
thing.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, too, like even Accutane, it's not like, the next day your acne will be completely gone. You have to go
Oh,
on like multiple months of it. You have to do
yep.
several rounds of it. Your acne might come back at the end of it. You can be
Often,
left with like
often.
long, like lifelong side effects. Like most
Yeah,
people I've talked to are like, if I could have went back, like I probably wouldn't have gone on it, but like it helped me at the time,
agreed.
So it's not like a easy one like step solution in that either. And you still probably have to, at the end of the day when you're off of it, still have to put in the work like to get your balance
Exact.
back with
I
your
work
body
with a
anyways.
lot of clients actually who are on Accutane
hmm
so that it doesn't come
Yep.
back. Because I explained to them like, okay, yeah, maybe first of all, it doesn't even work for absolutely everyone, but say it
Right.
does work for you, that you get clear. When you get off the Accutane, first of all, then you're dealing with the liver and the gut stagnation that you could have already been experienced. Now it's 10 times worse, right? And then whatever was causing that why behind the breakouts, that hasn't been fixed. So when that
No.
medication leaves the system, you've already got these degraded detox pathways because you're on this intense medication. It's actually so much more likely to come back now because the imbalance is likely worse. And
Right.
that's what I want people to understand too, because it's like they put their body through 6 months to a year of Accutane when we could have just done that all naturally, most cases, and not had to deal with that and gotten to the root of the why. So they are long term clearer instead of ever like that fear people have. I know that are on Accutane or hormonal birth control, even antibiotics, they get off the medication and they are so stressed that it's going to come back. They get one pimple flipping out and then they're stressed, their cortisol, like it's such a domino effect,
Yeah,
right? Like
definitely.
ultimately,
Definitely. And that like I mean, I see it every day. Like I'm still a student right now, so anytime I have like exam season, my acne flares up so much and then 2 weeks later it's like gone. So it like it has such an impact on you. And even like these were some of the things that I was expressing as concerns because I knew that acne can have so much effects on your liver. And for me, like I can even take like Tylenol and I'll break out the next day. So I'm like,
mm-hmm.
like if I drink alcohol, I'll break out. So I like stop drinking completely. So for me, I was like, why would I go on this when I already know kind of like have an idea of how it'll affect my body, and I'm like expressing these concerns and they're just like as you mentioned like being dismissed, and it's almost like that's the only solution. Like I just wish, and as you said, like I wish it wasn't so polarized, like in terms of
No.
just holistic or medication. Like as you mentioned, you can do like a mix of both. I just wish like more options were presented to me on like, hey, we can run these tests and then see like if Accutane would even be like good solution, or maybe we'll find something else in there that, you know, you might have a deficiency of some sort or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's
I think
definitely
the lack of belief in testing too for them for some reason, like I don't understand that part either. Like they like a lot of general doctors, they like dismiss hormonal testing
yeah.
and like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, so my client, I just asked her to go get blood work. I always try to get them to get blood work because it's cheaper than getting a Dutch test. The Dutch test is $400. I obviously try to save money where I can for people. But I hear these stories because they're always going to their doctor's office being like, okay, I need to get estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, AM and PM cortisol, and I need to do it at a certain time in my cycle. And they're always dismissing it. They're like, well, hormones shift and change. And I'm like, that's the point. That's why I want them to get a snapshot at a specific time in their cycle.
Right.
See them. Like it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Like you've learned this at school. You know what the hormones are doing throughout a cycle. It's just a little wild that we're not shifting more into the like, okay, there's a time and place for medication, but maybe we also have a time and place for more of a functional medicine type deal where we're also acknowledging that there could be hormonal components or gut issues or whatever that are leading to these imbalances.
Right. And what would you say, like, from your experience, has been like the most common with your clients who, like, let's say, are coming off birth control? Like, what type of imbalances are you typically seeing with them?
Oh gosh, it's a lot. Almost always gut issues because being on the pill for that long is like going to absolutely destroy their gut flora. And then just make it so anytime our gut defenses are down, we're more prone to getting infections, like more prone to like autoimmune stuff. Your immunity's down, you're tired, like you're just all this like built up stuff is like gone. So
Right.
everything that you're getting exposed to in your internal system is then taking a hold. So that's definitely the root. Liver stagnation, 1,000%. And then the pill depletes a lot of like vitamins and minerals. So they're always completely rocked by those, like very, very low in a lot of vitamins and minerals. And then we have to deal with why'd you go on the pill in the first place? A lot of it was for missing periods, PCOS, hormonal imbalances.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've been on the pill shutting down hormonal production and ovulation. And now we have to see what your real hormones are going to do. Well, it's not going to magically fix PCOS and irregular periods. So then we have to then work on the hormone piece, right?
Yep.
And figure out, are you ovulating? Did your period come back? Like, then we have to kind of jump in from that. We're dealing with androgen rebound, quite likely. Like it's very, you know what I mean?
Complex.
There's
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And as you're listing those things off, I'm like, yep, makes sense. I definitely experienced that and that and that. I guess like for like people who don't know and stuff, and I know like the term like gut health is thrown around on social media a lot. So can you kind of go and elaborate a little bit about like what the gut is, what like an unhealthy versus healthy gut would actually look like?
Yeah, for sure. And I think like we have to remember we're living in a like social media time where like it's just like pushing product, pushing
Yeah.
supplement, pushing this, trend that. We have to get it back to basics a little bit. So your gut is basically your foundation of your healing. So like say we're looking at acne healing as a pyramid, the bottom is like gut health and blood sugar regulation, right? Like that's the baseline, right? And these are foundational pieces to everyone's health that they need to keep in check. And for the most part can be, you know, unless there's like a medication or something, most parts can be handled properly with like proper diet, right? And nutrition, to be honest. So we have good guys and bad guys in the gut. If you want to think of your gut as like a garden, you want as many different seeds and plant varieties as possible to flourish. So it's like a gorgeous, lush garden, not like a little dry soil patch that is like letting all these bugs and critters in.
Right.
Right. So if we are focusing on prebiotic and probiotic foods, if we're eating a ton of different varieties of, you know, grains and vegetables and fruits, and we're actually feeding our gut properly, we're usually going to be in a better position. Unfortunately, with acne, so many medications, antibiotics are usually that first route. They kill all the good and bad, but all the good guys. Birth control does that, and so does Accutane, right? So what happens is, we just don't have enough support in the gut to like fight off the bad, and it makes us prone to infection. So things I see a lot in practice are like H. pylori infections, or you've got really low stomach acid, so you're not like breaking down your food properly. That's leading to constipation or diarrhea, or a ton of bloating and excessive gas. Parasites get in there. Like, it's just when you're not having that healthy barrier to like not allow that kind of crap in, we suffer. So I see constipation as probably one of the biggest things with acne clients, and people think it's normal not to poop every day. And like the quality of your poop matters, right? So before I even work with someone, I'm like, okay, like, how's your poop? How many times a day are you pooping? What's the quality of your poop? Like, is it soft and well formed, easy to pass? You're not using half a roll of toilet paper to wipe it. Like, how are you feeling during the day? Like, so many people are chronically bloated, have gas. Like, it's like, those are all, I know we've been taught that they're like just normal and it's fine. Like, that's not normal. You should be feeling really optimized from like a stomach perspective every single day, and
Right.
pooping really easily no matter what.
Right. No, that all makes sense for sure. And then as you mentioned there too, like with social media, obviously
Oh,
like, and I said this earlier, like gut health is like really thrown around, like you see it all the
trendy.
time,
Yeah.
very trendy. So,
Yeah.
can you kind of break that down further? And you even mentioned like the pushing of like different supplements and all these different things that you can do. So yeah, can you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, listen, I think social media has taken a turn in terms of it's unhealthy the amount we're consuming with like tips and tricks and like other people's opinions and other people's journeys, and then like pushing of these supplements and pills. We're made to feel like we need like a million supplements, a million different skincare routines just to like be quote unquote healthy. The issue with that is like, no one with acne, like, you are so individual in the why behind your breakouts and what you need to heal. And until you understand that, till everyone understands that, what you're going to do based on someone else's TikTok video, it's not going to work for you because it's not tailored to your why. Right. And yeah, sometimes probiotics are a really good thing. Like, if you've been on antibiotics and all these things, but you can't just take a random probiotic without understanding like the different strains and like how it's going to benefit you. I think we have to pare down, and I talk about this a lot, like we have to pare down to basics. Like, people are constantly reaching for supplements that are, especially all my clients that are coming into my practice, they're taking about 15 different supplements. And I'm like, why? What's going on? TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. And I'm like, this is getting out of control, danger. First of all, are you pooping every day? Oh, no. I poop 3 times a week. Okay, how are you eating enough every day? Are you eating protein every 4 hours? Oh, no. I drink coffee on an empty stomach. I'm like doing like tons of exercise. I'm like, I'm really on a weight loss kick. I'm drinking, 4 coffees a day. How are you sleeping? Oh, terrible. Like, I don't know, like really broken. I'm up every 2 hours. How's your stress? 10 out of 10. Like, I mean, most days. The supplements are not going to fix those things. Right. And what we're doing when we're taking random ass supplements is lighting money on fire, but also very likely making everything worse. Because if you jump on and take this random supplement, and most of them are hormonally driven these days, okay? So DIM, saw palmetto, Vitex. If you have acne, you've come across these 1,000%. They have their time and place in practice. I'm not saying that I don't use them, but I use them only if you're absolutely hitting all the symptoms of that hormonal imbalance, that you have all those foundational pieces on lockdown. Like, you are pooping, your liver is working like it should, you're sleeping, your stress is down. Then if you were still having issues with acne and PMS symptoms and signs of hormonal imbalance, then maybe we consider that. But the problem is people don't understand there's an order in which to do things. Supplement companies don't want you to do that. Right. They don't want you to know that. They just want you to take this magic pill, We have to remember too, like, it's cookie cutter approaches don't exist with skincare. They don't exist with supplements. They don't even exist with diet. They don't even exist with stress management. Everyone is going to respond differently based on their needs and honestly disposition and kind of even their ability to kind of like handle stress. Like, I'm an empath. I get easily drained. Like I'm an extroverted introvert. Like all these things actually really matter when we're building a holistic plan like that. So I know that was a bit of a tangent on that, but
No, you're all good.
it scares me what is being put out there on social media when it's often not by anyone who's educated or works with real bodies to be giving that advice.
Right. No,
And we
for
have to
sure.
remember that too. Like I've been working as an acne expert, only acne. Like as soon as I started my practice, I've only worked with acne day in and day out for approaching 9 years. Okay.
Wow.
And it was not until I was like a couple years into practice that I would truly say, okay, I've got this now. I understand truly, because I have worked with every type of acne, every kind of case, severity of acne. And I've looked and seen how different bodies process all these things. So I have an actual understanding of that. And I don't think until you're working with real clients and their real bodies with these things, you can really talk about it, which is why you can't just say this pill is going to be a magic solution, right?
Definitely. Definitely. And like I like that you kind of nailed like certain things, like for sure, like sleep and like just basic things. Like we really need to be focusing on that, because at the end, like I've seen the huge effects. Like, this year I think I've really been prioritizing my sleep more, and not just like duration, but also just consistency of like, sleep and wake time as well. And like I've seen huge effects in that. I was literally talking to my mom this morning, little things, just like moving my coffee to like later in the day, like not right in the morning. And it's made a huge impact on like just my energy throughout the day. Even just like bringing in more movement during the day. Like I got like a walking pad, and it like changed my life, because just like just getting that extra movement in helped a lot. So yeah, just little things like that, and just kind of like switching my mindset a little bit too around like my tasks throughout the day to try to like bring those stress levels down. Of course, like I mentioned, during like exam seasons and stuff, like it's just kind of inevitable, but like on a day-to-day like normal basis. So I really like that you touched on those things. And I guess the next thing I want to get into here is, I think when you're struggling with acne, it can feel very overwhelming of like, okay, I want to take the holistic route, but like where do I start? So kind of like you mentioned there, like probably the main things, like start with like just your day-to-day, like what are you doing daily, right?
Yeah. So my advice is always to do kind of a journal, like a symptom journal, because that can actually tell you a lot and give you a lot of direction. So I would just like make a note in your phone, or just like have a little notepad or whatever. And over a month or even 2 months, every time you're breaking out, kind of like just jot down what was going on. What was your stress level like? Where were you at in your cycle? Had you changed anything up? Skincare too, like how long have you stayed consistent with this? How many actives are you using? Like just try to get a little, are you pooping every day? Like just those like major things. A lot of people will be like, oh shit, wow, I break out every ovulation. That's what it is. Okay. Yeah. Once we have that info, we can narrow it down a little bit more. The other thing too is, again, like turn out the noise, like turn into you. Like the person who has the answers is actually you. Your body is communicating with you, and it's not your job. It's someone like me. It's my job to like pull those pieces out and tell you what's going on. But you intuitively do know. And I always start my consults with clients a lot of the time being like, what do you think's going on? And then we do the whole consult. And guess what? They're usually always intuitively right. And now they don't know how to break it down and why it's happening. That's my job. But you do want to, as much as possible, listen to your symptoms, list them out, tune inward, try to get back in alignment with your body. I think we're just so disconnected with our bodies. It's crazy. Like we're even disconnected with our breath, our mindset, that stuff like that. Like so many people are just like this, hunched over, working every day, shoulders up, they're not even breathing, and then they realize they're like, oh my god, right? Like we just need to kind of get back to that and get back to those basics, like sleep, stress, mindset, not freaking out about food and restricting like a million things, and stop, like just for 2 months, don't do anything the internet told you to do. Like truly.
Yeah,
truly.
That's very fair. I really want to touch on like the point that you mentioned with like feeling disconnected with your body, and especially because you did get off birth control at 22. So how was that journey for you, like being, a 22-year-old woman who probably like didn't actually know anything about like her own cycle because you just hadn't experienced that yet?
It was it was rough because my periods became so awful that I had to be on prescription pain meds for like
Wow.
the first 3 days. And my hormones were so out of whack that I was flaring like before ovulation, and then before my period, I got a little reprieve when I actually started bleeding, because that's when all my hormones actually dropped. So I had like 5 days a month where my skin was like somewhat calm.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't ever paid attention to it much anymore before, because I was basically like just skipping my period. And I don't know, it kind of felt like as soon as I got off, like this brain fog lifted almost. And I was like, shit, this is how I was supposed to be feeling in my brain.
Right.
And
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa. So like I was clear. I just felt clear. And that was just a really kind of a big mind F, because I was like, I went through all of my schooling like this. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, like, could I have successfully done this better? Like, this is just a bit weird. And I think it made me really moody when I was on it, but then I had those PMS symptoms of like mood swings, but just more like that PMS 7 to 10 days before. So it took like a really long time for my periods now are just like totally pain-free, like good to go. Like obviously no one loves being on their cycle. I'm not
Yeah.
like out running a marathon, but I mean, that took years of work and years of like of natural understanding. And even like I say this to my clients too, like think about it. So when I got pregnant, which was, I guess she's turning 10 months, like I had just kind of gotten things regular. So after the pill, like it took me almost a decade to balance. Like,
Right.
and I was doing all the right things. Like
Yep.
I successfully knew what to do. I was like, but that's how long true healing can sometimes take when you've been on these drugs for that long. I think
Right.
we need to bear that in mind too with natural healing. Like people want this like overnight fix. They freak out when they're like 2 months into a program and they're like, it's not working. I'm like, of course it's not working yet. I'm not telling you it should work in 2 months. I never say that. First of all, I don't put timelines on healing because that's crazy pressure on your body. And we've got to like chill the body out. It's going to take as much time as you need to actually heal it and heal it properly. But I do think that's why so many people go the medication route, because that patience is just really hard to tune in on. And mindset is such a big part of my programs. Like I really work on that most at the forefront of anything, because if you're not believing in your body's ability to heal, you're not believing in me, you're not believing that you're going to be acne free, good luck. Like it's
It
just
won't
not going
work. Yeah. No,
to. No.
definitely.
I've
Definitely.
seen it enough at this point. I know. So I always ask clients, I'm like, okay, great. Like, are you open to doing the mindset work? Because that is challenging work to do. It's like, journals and like rewiring the brain and like really putting effort into that and affirmations and stuff like that. And, I think you have to be ready to go that route.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And I relate to so much of what you said. The brain fog, definitely. I felt like, and it was a weird time because when I was like on the birth control, like the last year of it, when I decided like, okay, I need to get off this, it was also like prime like COVID time. So I was doing school like full time from home. So I was like in my room studying all day. So I think like there was lots of other factors that like, played into that. But definitely like the brain fog right away, like I saw like it was just like that instant clarity, which was real. It's a very weird feeling to like feel, but I definitely
Weird.
relate with you on that. And then yeah, just like being more in tune with things. But I do agree with you 100%. It is such a mindset because I mean, even with my platforms and everything I share, like I talk about struggling with acne, like I try to bring so much positivity to it. And although like you're right, like
Yeah.
it is your body signaling that something is like off. At the same time, like you can't let it just like drive your entire day because like, you just have to put that to the side and just like keep doing you and having that long vision of like what, I'm on this healing journey and I just need to let like my body do what it's doing and it's just trying to help me as best as it can. And I think what I see like the most, at least in my comments when I share my story, because I did go off the pill very cold turkey, like I didn't really like prep myself in terms of like let me get educated and like that was on me, but I think at the same time everything happens for a reason. I think I grew a lot during that journey of having that much cystic acne. So but when I do share my journey, I get so many comments of people saying I wanted to get off the pill, but I'm too scared to do it now. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on, anyone who is on the pill wants to get off and like what they should be doing to prep themselves, like not just physically, mentally, but also like,
Mhm.
maybe not fearing the consequences, but just being more prepared for them.
So I literally have a course on like exactly what to do because it was coming up so much with
Right.
people who couldn't afford my one-to-one practice, nor can I reach as many people because I'm capped at one-to-ones. So it's like $97. So not to like promote it, but like,
no, you're good. You're good.
Follow that
Yeah.
because girl, to a T, if you follow those protocols for 3 months before coming off, you are good. So essentially you want to, I've been doing transitions off hormonal birth control since I started in practice, mostly because I'm so passionate about it because I don't want anyone to deal with what I went through. Like
Yeah.
it's very much like at the center of my passion for my clients.
Love that.
And it just so happens so many people started coming to me even from the get-go, being on the pill and be like, every time I come off, I get this crazy flare. So I panic and I go back on. I'm so freaked out. So mindset is huge. You have to work on that. So you have to like somehow replace that fear with being excited and hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a shift, right? Instead of being like, oh my God, I'm going to break out. This is going to be terrible. You have to be like, hell yeah, I'm getting this off this crap. I'm going to feel optimal. I'm going to have natural cycles back. I'm going to get in tune with my body. I'm going to balance out things. It's going to like make me feel great. Like that part is arguably the most important part. And then you have to basically prep the body. So say you were here. If you're listening to this, I'm just in the center of the screen with my hand, before the pill, and the pills dropped you down to like the bottom of the screen. So my intention through my protocols is to bring you back to center through proper supplementation, nutrition, mindset work, stress management, skincare. Because we have to remember too, on the pill, because it blocks sebum production, you can get away with putting a lot more on your face. That ain't the case when you come. That's why people get oil flares. And then they're like, oh my God, my products aren't working anymore. So you have to prep with the right supplements, the right skincare, nutrition, mindset. So we're kind of back to where we were. You come off the pill and then we skyrocket into that like balanced state. So it doesn't have to be scary. It honestly can be a fun experience. I have 100% success rate with it. Truly just like follow the right expertise, the right advice, and like you're golden. It does not have to be scary. I promise.
Definitely. And I think the biggest thing there is just like the education part of it's like this unknown fear of like, how will I even like feel off of it and everything.
Yeah.
And that's so I haven't actually thought about like the skincare part of it.
Oh my God.
Like I didn't even think, but now looking back, like, yeah, my skin definitely could have handled a lot more when I was on the pill. So that's so interesting. I've never thought about that. Wow.
Like your sebum changes, like your oil production changes, and you're so much more sensitive.
Right.
So like it's a double whammy because like your hormones are going crazy. You often have this testosterone rebound, which is going to cause 10 times more oil production. And then likely you're using products that you like have that have pore cloggers in it, or you're not using the right actives to keep the cellular turnover at bay. Boom. So it's like this like triple whammy. It's like you panic. So that's the mindset stress piece, skincare, and then your body's not in balance. That's that nutrition piece, that's that mental piece.
And also like you said too, like the increased sensitivity, then you're probably going with lots of like acne products. So then you're stripping the skin.
Yeah.
And it's just like a constant
balance.
Yeah, it is. And wow, that's great to know. And I think it's amazing to know that there are those resources out there, like, you know, not making it so scary and kind of prepping the body for everything you need. And I think too, like at the end of the day, like I didn't do that, but I also don't regret just like getting off the pill because like I learned so much. And yeah, if I could go back, I would probably like, you know, do some more prep and just make sure that like I was more informed, but I was just so like done with it. And I don't know, like at the time I just like didn't know anybody else who had like gotten off the pill. You know, it wasn't until like I actually did that I started like looking into it and connecting with people online who like had similar experiences. So it's so interesting. And I've had so many friends who are on the pill for years and years and they're like, oh, I haven't ever like experienced any like, you know, bad symptoms being on it. But with some of them too, I'm like curious because they've been on it for so long that I'm curious, like, is their new normal or like
that's what I was afraid.
Yeah.
And I think, so what I can say with 100% confidence is every client, and I'm talking like close to probably 1,000 now that we've gotten off safely, hormonal birth control, no one has said, oh, I regret that. Everyone has said, holy crap, this improved. Oh my God, could this have been related? All of it.
Yeah.
Mood stuff, Um, Also sex drive is a huge one. Hair loss comes back, like your hair starts to grow back to where it, originally was.
Mhm.
Like just so many things, like able to have more stamina, less fatigue, sleep better. It's crazy. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, no, and I like although I had like those symptoms on the pill, and mostly like energy and mood, that's what kind of like drove me to get off it because like I'm a very motivated person. When I was on it, I just like didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do content. I didn't want to do school, and it was like really weird. And obviously like, being at home like during COVID, like that
Yeah.
could have definitely played into it, but it's so crazy like all the symptoms I experienced after the pill that was like it was really scary because it's like, oh my gosh, like maybe I should go back because like I wasn't having any of these problems, but really it was the pill that caused me to have those symptoms after. And like we've already touched on the acne, but like even my body, like I look back at photos of me just like last year because now I've been off the pill for 2 years now. So like even just looking back at photos from last year, 1 year off the pill, my body, like I wouldn't even say that I like gain weight during that time, but my body was just so much more inflamed. Like I look at photos of
Inflamed.
like my arm, my chest,
Perfect word.
like it wasn't even like a weight thing. It was like literally like I just was like
Swollen.
fluffier. Like it
Yeah.
like literally swollen. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
crazy. Even my
Yeah.
face, like my face has slimmed down so much. And yes, like, I'm on this like new fitness journey and there are parts of that, but like just overall, like looking at side by side like profiles of my face, like huge changes in just like my face shape. And I'm like, that's super weird that like coming off the pill did that.
Yeah.
Now like, this past year I have been experiencing like a lot more like hair thinning and hair loss, and I don't know like if that's obviously like as women, like as we age, that like tends to happen, but it still could be like those side effects. And like you mentioned, like it does take a long time for your body
Yeah.
to like come back to a
Regulate.
normal state, right? So I'm probably still having like effects even though I got off it 2 years ago. I'm still probably like going through that process for sure.
And it could be too, because you didn't do that prep, there
Yeah.
are some things that are just not in alignment yet.
Yeah.
And once we got those, you'd be golden, right? It's just bringing you,
Exactly.
maybe tweaking a few things, bring you back into balance a little bit, and then boom, Bob's
Yeah.
your uncle.
Definitely, definitely. But yeah, just like I think for a lot of people it is so overwhelming of like where do you start, right? Like
Oh, it's
and just
crazy.
that fear. And I think with acne too, like I mean, acne is so complex and not only like how to treat it, but also just like how it affects you mentally. And I think especially like being in your 20s, getting that cystic acne, like it's like as an adult, like it's like looked at like adults shouldn't like have acne. This is like, a teen who's like struggling with acne, but
Oh my God,
it's like
no. It's
very, very real to have adult acne, and
so
it's
common.
like so stubborn because it like literally just like won't go away. But yeah, it's tough, and especially like I had such clear skin for like the time that I was on birth control. I'd get the occasional breakouts, like even around like my like fake cycle and everything, but like nothing like coming off. And the worst part I think was looking like back at photos of when my skin was clear. And that's like the worst thing you can do for yourself because
Oh
it's
my God,
like
I know. I
you
know.
just like compare and compare and compare with yourself. So you
Yep.
just have to like keep that like forward mindset. Now when I look back at like those photos of me when my skin was like now when I'll get like a small breakout or whatever, I will look back at the photos when I really was struggling with my skin. I'm like, hey, like
You
that
like,
girl like kept her head up, like you're
yeah,
good.
you can
Like
too.
don't freak
Yeah.
out like over like these tiny breakouts right now.
Yeah, and I think like that is just speaking to the testament of mindset, because if you do allow that like panic to kind of spiral and
Yep.
then you're producing cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which is super inflammatory. It also spikes testosterone, which we talked about, which increases oil production.
Hmm.
You're on this hamster wheel that's really, really hard to get off of. So you're like stressing about your breakouts get worse. Bam, 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 bam. And you can't get off of it. And I do think for most people, like that is the number one root cause is stress, right? So like stress management has to be, and mindset have to be at that forefront. Like you need to figure out tools that when you start to feel that like, oh, okay, I'm starting to freak out about this breakout, like you have some sort of tool, whether it's like an affirmation or you get into your body or you do breath work or you go put a podcast in or like a podcast like this to just be like, oh my
Yes.
God, I'm not alone. Listen to these other girls talking about acne. They're also in it with me. Like the more tools for distraction in those moments, I think is really, really key too.
Definitely. And I talk a lot about like the skin positivity aspect and the confidence, and probably the number one question I get is like that's great and all, but like how do I actually get there? So like with stress, for example, like
Yeah.
it's I think very easy to be like, okay, like, bring down your stress levels. Like what are your like number like, I don't
Yeah.
know, the top tips for like actually implementing practices to bring down stress levels during the day?
Yeah. So I talk about this a lot because I think, again, social media, it's like glorified stress management practices to such an extent that, like, if you're not waking up at 5 a.m. and doing your journaling and then you're meditating, you have your lemon water and then you're doing your yoga and then you're going for a walk and like you're touching nature and you're touching trees and you're grounding and blah, blah, blah. People are watching that being like, what the fuck? Like, I don't have time to do that. Like,
Yeah.
and they're stressed about the stress management.
Right.
So, like, again, let's try to just get back to basics. Like, I'm a very basics person. So, first of all, you need to find something that works for you. What's going to work for me and what works for you is not going to be the same. Like, so I don't like yoga. That stresses me out. I don't want to go to yoga. That's not for me. What I do like is going for a walk and popping like a walking meditation in. That works perfectly to me. So try a bunch of things, but just one a day. And also at the very basic, it should be doing something every day that brings you pure joy. Like, and that can be very different based on where you're on your cycle, what mood you're in, how much sleep you've had. Some days that's me drinking a bottle of wine with my girlfriends. Other days it's me cooking a super healthy meal and going to bed at 8 p.m. Like, we have to list, again, it's back to that intuition, right? Like, what is going to actually make me joyful and happy, which is the number one combat to all health at the end of the day.
Definitely. And I like that you touched on like it can be very different things, and also like, you know, from big things to small things. Like one day you could be doing like a huge thing that you love versus the other day like it could probably just be like doing your skincare and you enjoy like spending that time with yourself for 5 minutes. So I really like that you touched on that. And I think, yeah, you're right, like social media does very much kind of create like a box of like what we should be doing and what we should be enjoying. And I know for me, like the one thing I hate with working out is like running. I will not run. It's like like it's the worst type of thing that I could do. And that was like one thing with my fitness coach that like I told her right off the bat, like I'm not running. That's not something I'm willing to do. But I love swimming. So like that's like what I'll kind of do as like my, so obviously like I still want to keep that movement in because I know it's important, but like finding, because like as you said, like you're just gonna get into that cycle of like you don't want to do it but you feel like you have to, and then that just causes
that's not good. That's not stress management. That's stressful.
Yeah, definitely. And then what would you say, like what's your advice with things that just like have to get done, like for example like work and school, where it's like you just gotta like do the things you gotta do?
Yeah. So I think like boundaries are really important for people who struggle with those, like the overwhelm of like school and stress and all those things. Like obviously there's going to be temporary things like exams or, you know, a stressful thing happens with your family. Like that is fine.
Yeah.
But I think it really does come down to being aware of those feelings of stress and then having that tool to be like, oh no, we're not going to let that overcome us and like boil into something unnecessary and this full-blown panic attack and freak out. We're going to really try hard to like not push it down, but acknowledge it and then give it some space to like calm down. So even honestly, like you stop, you do some box breathing where you like basically envision a box in your head and you like inhale for 4, hold at the corner, exhale for 4, hold, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Do that 5 times and just see if that makes a difference. And it usually always does. Like half the time we're forgetting to freaking breathe when we're stressed anyways.
Right.
But the more, it's really just, it's figuring out tools of distraction that actually are easy to implement. Like if you're at work, you can breathe, like no one's looking at you. It's not like you do it on the low key. You're not going to like pull your journal out, light a candle, like, you know what I mean? Yoga in your cubicle. However, breathing or affirmations or something like that. Like you can't go make yourself a tea. And honestly, the whole time you're making yourself your tea, start thinking about things you love. Like just little things like that.
Just kind of like take that break and like switch the mindset a little bit. For sure. I always do that too. I mean, like common example with skin, like you like really get zoned in on the mirror and you're like,
oh my God,
taking everything apart. You like physically need to walk away from it to actually let that stop. And like you mentioned too, like get up, go get it. Like it kind of works the same with any situation where you're kind of like so zeroed in on it. And that's like the only thing you can think about it. You literally have to remove yourself from it.
I've had to have my husband physically remove me from the bathroom before. Because when we first started dating, my acne was like at its worst. It was really, really bad. And he was, when we started living together, he fully knew what I was up to when I was in that bathroom for so long. And he would just be like, Meg girl, nope.
Yeah. We're not doing that today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because like I'm picking it apart.
Yeah.
I'm being so mean to myself. It's not helping.
I'm like, this is crazy how many like things and like our stories like kind of align because like I started dating my like boyfriend when my acne was at its like actual worst. And it's
Mhm.
like it's so crazy because I think that I mean I've talked about this on this podcast too, like dating with acne. Like I think so many like women fear that of like, oh, like I'm not gonna be loved if I like, and it's
My
like I
God.
literally started dating him when my skin was at its worst. And like to like add even on top of that, like when I started developing the skincare brand that I own now, my business partner had met me when my skin was at its worst, but like it didn't change his opinion on like what I actually knew in terms of like formulating skincare and developing a brand. So like it just goes to show like it's not, like yes, it's a very hard thing to go through. We totally relate to that, but in terms of like how it affects like your actual life, like you just have to realize like really change your mindset and like not let it impact those things.
And I think so, two things on that. I think this is where confidence in yourself comes
Yeah.
out, right? And not like you're just so zoned in on like that self-love aspect and like who cares if I have a breakout? I'm so much more than my skin. Secondly, like the people who matter and the people who are supposed to be in your life, they absolutely don't care.
Yeah.
And honestly, everyone else,
Yeah.
like
No,
you don't need
seriously.
that energy. No one, anyone who's judging anyone based on their appearance, body, look, skin, no, that's not even what we want in our circles
Hmm.
anyways, right? And like if you ask any of your best friends or family or whatever, what are the 5 things you love most about me? There's no way they're talking about how you look. Like,
Yeah.
there's no
I
way.
love you because you have good skin. That yeah.
You have
No.
flawless skin and you're super skinny. So like you're my best friend. Like,
Yeah.
oh, said no
No,
one ever.
that's literally the best way to put it. Yeah, no, definitely. No, and this is like so amazing, like talking to you about all this stuff and just kind of debunking some of these things. So before we end off here, I want to ask you, what are like maybe let's do the top 3 things you've seen on social media that you're like, this is just like so wrong,
Yes.
and then debunking that.
Okay. So first of all, full disclosure, I had to get off TikTok because it was making my blood boil and my algorithm was all acne advice. And I was like, I'm going to throw my phone. I'm going to throw it. So I don't go on it anymore other than my little Instagram. However, the number one thing will be that you have to cut out foods to have clear skin. And that's everywhere. That's
Mhm.
Google, that's Instagram, that's TikTok, whatever. That is absolute utter BS. I have been working with acne coming up on 9 years. Every single one of my clients, unless they have an intolerance or a sensitivity to food, like that means a clear reaction. You eat gluten and you break out or you're
Yeah,
bloated or you have diarrhea, eats everything in moderation because they've got rid of their food fear with me. And
right.
that's the piece. That food fear is a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've connected that food saying, dairy breaks me out, dairy breaks me out, dairy breaks me out. If I eat dairy, I'm going to get a pimple. So you're eating this dairy, you're saying this to yourself, you're panicked about eating it because you're
Mm.
worried about what's going to happen the next day. So it's the cortisol that's causing that breakout, not the freaking cheese you ate at a
Right.
girl's night.
Right. And like you said,
So
like unless you have that intolerance. And definitely like I see it so much in my comments. People are like like you just obviously eat like crap, like and then I do come on, I'll show like what I eat in a day, and then people are like, "Oh, you eat better than I've ever eaten in my life." I'm
like, are
literally the
we
proof.
really, it's like, it's
Yeah.
crazy to me that we are still on this path. Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand.
And
It
definitely
just,
like you mentioned, like yes, there could be like correlations if you do
yes.
see those direct effects, but that doesn't apply to everyone, and you can't just like diagnose someone on the internet saying like, "Oh, clearly you have acne, so you need to stop like eating this and this." Like maybe they have tried that, maybe they don't eat that, you know?
They've tried it. First of all, let's also be clear. Here's my other thing. Like, if it were that easy, every client who I've had, including myself, has
Yeah.
everyone's cut dairy and sugar and gluten and alcohol. Like, oh, come on. We all have. That's the first thing. That's first thing you're told by anyone.
Yeah.
And if it were that easy as cutting those things out, the whole world would have flawless skin
Yeah.
because that's a pretty easy thing if you never got acne again to cut out. If you
Yep.
like, if it really worked.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just,
Yeah, no, just
you have,
the assumptions of like I've
oh
even
yeah,
gotten comments where it's like, oh, like you probably just like drink a bunch of alcohol, and then I come on, I'm like, actually don't drink at all. So
trolls are trolling.
what's your next piece of advice I should try?
Oh my God, the unsolicited advice on TikTok. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Also, let's be clear too. I'm talking like a 70-30 approach with diet, right? So
Right.
I'm not saying you should be eating McDonald's every day. Now,
Yep.
like, yeah, like some days, like my friend got married, I was hungover and I got a Big Mac meal. I'm like, I'm human,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
does happen. I have
Exactly.
acne. It doesn't mean I can't live my life to the fullest, right? Like we have to like humanize
Hmm.
it a little bit more. We're demonizing food, and I think that it's getting out of control. I have seen a huge uptick in eating disorders
Yep.
and food fear in my practice, and it is my number one thing I want to debunk. Like
Hmm.
I'm so passionate about it. Like I do not need you then developing an eating disorder on top of this. Like
Definitely.
it's not going to help our cause at all.
No.
The second thing would definitely be like those one size fits all approaches to like supplements. So
Okay.
like this supplement is going to be good for everyone, even
Hmm.
though it contains stuff that's absolutely not going to be good for people who have certain imbalances. We have to be very, very careful. So it's like blindly taking supplements. This will clear your skin. This will clear your skin without doing the foundational work and understanding what your root causes are and what's actually going to be working for you. I'm trying to think if do you have any that you want to jump on? Cause I can't think of it. I haven't been on TikTok in so long.
Oh my gosh. I get so much unsolicited advice every single day. I would say like just the one thing that always takes me off is like the amount of people that come to my comments telling me to take Accutane as if I've never heard of it.
That was a whole can of worms too. I feel on the like do you find though that TikTok is like kind of toxic and Instagram's like more loving and supportive? Like, or is that
So okay, this is actually my rank, and maybe this is just like the following I have on each one, but
yeah,
I find okay, like obviously each platform's gonna have like its own like
yeah,
unsolicited advice and haters and all that.
yeah.
I would say videos on TikTok, usually like my followers on TikTok always have my back. They're always like
Okay,
really, like
okay, good.
there for me. When I do like a video with a brand and it gets boosted, so then it goes to like a whole new range of people, that's when all the trolls come in, and then I'll have people that like do follow me like literally clapping back for me, which I think is
Oh,
just like
love.
yeah,
I love
very very
that.
supportive community. But like
Okay.
I do like I would say that, or like if a video like really blows up and there are those like lots of new people coming in, that's when I will get a lot of that.
Okay.
um Mostly the times when I'm like applying makeup, because people are like, if you only just stopped wearing makeup, you wouldn't be getting acne
Uh,
anymore. And I'm like, right, because this is what's like causing like cystic under the skin breakouts is like the concealer I'm wearing. But anyways, so that Instagram I would say is a little more ruthless on some things. Like I do find
really?
like
Okay.
sometimes, yeah, people are like, I don't know what it is. And then the worst one of all I would say is YouTube Shorts for me. Like YouTube,
Oh, I've never been on
my
YouTube.
my long form YouTube is like very much like my community, so that's fine. But YouTube Shorts, I don't know who's on there, if it's like kids or what it is, but like people are just like such trolls on there. But I don't take any, like I honestly don't take any of it to heart. And I've made like, episodes on like dealing with like negative comments and stuff, because like honestly, like you just have to remember these people know literally nothing about you. They've seen 10 seconds
I
of
know.
your
It's a
face and
wild
just assume
place. Yeah.
your whole health history in one comment.
Yeah, it is wild. It is wild. I think, yeah, I would just say be careful of like the advice that you're following. I think what does really scare me about TikTok, I guess Instagram too. I don't know. I just find Instagram more like community based. I just
Mhm.
always have. However, I come across these very large accounts with acne advice and guides and programs. And then I go to click what their designations are, what schooling they did, and they don't have any. Like anytime you're going to work with someone, please ask for their credentials. Please
Yeah.
ask what is allowing them to be giving this advice to you if it has anything to do with your health and your skincare, to be quite honest. And like they should have a lot of before and afters from their methods, and they should also have testimonials or clients that you could talk to, because I feel so many of my clients come to me very burned by like a lot of people they've seen, and things haven't worked and they've wasted
Mhm.
thousands of dollars, and then they'll share their profile and I'm like, that they didn't go to they
Right.
don't have a nutrition degree. Like that's horrifying. And they'll send me a list, and some of these supplements really caused a lot of damage that I then have to unpack. So just know who you're like, you need to trust that practitioner. This is your skin, this is your body, this is your health. I just don't want anyone to make things worse because you know, that's a whole other can
Definitely.
of worms.
And not just like the actual like physical credentials of like the schooling and
Yeah.
knowledge, but also just like I think like what you mentioned right at the beginning of this episode, like just being able to like know someone that can actually relate to the position you're in, right? Because like I mentioned, I went to a doctor who like yes, qualified and all these things, but like since they've
Yeah.
never gone through what I've gone through,
Exactly. This is a
they're
great
not going
point.
to understand it. So like, you know, kind of finding those people that you do relate with and like as we're speaking here, it's like yes, I have gone through that and that like and I can really relate to you and all that. So I think, you know, those two things are really important. And also like you mentioned before and after, so I just want to like touch on this. I think one thing that social media has maybe done like not so well with is like glorifying these extreme before and afters. Like I have so many people who like I'll show like a skincare product I've been using and how like it's helped me with my scarring, whatever. And people are like, well, you still have scars. And I'm like, well, yes, it's not gonna like, you know, like we're talking about like
Yeah.
progress here, not like, you know, going to like back to baby smooth skin because my skin will never look like that again.
Same with mine.
Yeah. So
That's
I
not how
think,
it works when you've had cystic acne all
yeah,
over your face, girl. I don't care what you've done. It's
yeah,
never going to be flawless like that. Like genetics play a role, collagen production,
yeah,
age, like,
everything.
and I think that's the other thing I've really seen is just like it's just so fake. And so people that we used were like the rainbows and butterflies and like
Yeah,
they weren't like makeup base, right? So
definitely.
people were really happy when they'd get their results of they still had hyperpigmentation and they still had scarring, but they were like, oh my God, this looks so good. My skin
Yeah.
looks
My
fantastic.
skin doesn't hurt. Like just
The
like
active acne's gone.
yeah, that's
So
yeah.
now, oh my God, now they want their skin to look like this like flawless airbrushed glass skin. I was like,
Yeah.
babe, like
And just
you know,
breaking that down. Yeah,
that person
definitely.
doesn't even look like that.
No.
FYI.
Yeah,
My
that's not even
skin,
real.
I know all the things in the world. My skin has tons of ice pick scars. Like
Yep.
this pisses me off. Even Zoom, like I don't even have a filter on. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, looks like I have
Yeah.
like
It
that's not
does.
what my
Yeah.
skin looks like in real person.
Definitely. And that's so like I've made even like a full like dedicated episode to just like the damage of filters and like all of
Oh,
that. And that's why like I even created this podcast to like break down those
yeah.
walls and really like it's crazy because I'm on this side of it, you're on that side of it, so you know what real skin looks like and everything. But people are so the amount of comments I get that are like, oh my gosh, I did not know that was a filter, or I did not know that skin actually look like it's supposed to like my skin actually is supposed to look like this. And it's crazy to me.
Oh,
So yeah, no,
oh,
hopefully like you know, and I love having these conversations. And thank you so much for coming on today's episode. I think
worse,
we went
worse.
through
Thanks
like
for
a
having me.
lot. We went through like all sorts
Yeah,
of things.
we
So
have
I
a
think it
journey.
was yeah, great episode. You guys should definitely follow Meg. I'll have all her socials down below in the notes and as well as the description of this podcast if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the Loud Talk channel. We post new episodes every single Sunday morning at 7 a.m. MST. Yeah, I think that's all. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we hop off?
No, no, not at all. I loved having these conversations. My DMs are always open. I love to connect with you guys. So I'm
Amazing.
here.
And where can they find like any of your methods and all of that?
So getglowmethod.com is my website. That's a
Okay.
great place to start. And Get Glow Method for Insta. I'm like on TikTok, but I'm not. So Insta's the way to go. DM me. I'm old school.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, Meg. And thank you for everyone who's listening to this episode. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you're on YouTube and a 5-star if you're on Apple or Spotify. And yeah, that is it for today's episode. Thank you for getting loud with us. And remember, tell yourself something you love about your skin today. And you'll hear from me in the next episode of Loud Talk with Lavi. Bye, everyone.